12:15 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, and you see women.
March 27th, 2022. The room is filled with Hollywood's most powerful names at the Academy Awards. Laughter, applause, control. Then, a joke lands. Seconds later, Will Smith walks on stage and strikes Chris Rock in front of millions. But what if that moment was not just about a joke? What if it exposed something deeper that had been building for years? Chris Rock has spent decades saying uncomfortable things in plain sight. So why did this one land differently? Why did it trigger a reaction that seemed bigger than the moment itself? Was it disrespect? Or did it hit too close to something rarely acknowledged? And if that is the case, what exactly has Chris Rock been pointing at all along? To understand this, we have to look at the 20 years of coded warnings Rock had been broadcasting from the stage. The first shots at Hollywood's hidden power games. By 2005, Chris Rock had moved beyond the status of a mere comedian and transitioned into a cultural surgeon. His HBO special, Never Scared, arrived at a moment when the polished veneer of the early 2000s entertainment industry was beginning to crack under the weight of its own excess. While the public roared at his delivery, a closer look at the transcript reveals a sophisticated autopsy of the American power structure. Rock was not just telling jokes, he was identifying the invisible boundaries that dictate how a black man must navigate the heights of global fame. A central pillar of this era was Rock's distinction between being rich and being wealthy. He famously noted that Shaq is rich, but the white man who signs his paycheck is wealthy. On the surface, this is a commentary on economics. In the context of Hollywood's hidden power games, it was an early signal regarding the fragility of the performer. Rock was articulating a hard truth. In the entertainment ecosystem, the talent is often just an employee of a larger, more permanent machine. He pointed out that rich can be taken away by one bad summer or one scandal, whereas wealthy represents the systemic control that survives generations. One recurring thread in the special is the idea of image control. Rock explores how public figures are shaped, protected, and sometimes pressured into maintaining a version of themselves that aligns with industry expectations. During this period, Rock also began to dissect the industry isolation that swallows icons like Michael Jackson. He didn't just mock the eccentricities of the king of pop. He framed Jackson as a victim of a system that builds idols specifically to harvest their downfall. Rock's routine suggested that once a star becomes an asset of a certain magnitude, they are no longer treated as human beings, but as brands to be managed, exploited, or discarded. He was essentially warning his peers that the higher you climb, the more the industry owns your narrative. There's a specific rhythm to the way Rock used his platform in 2005. He used the cover of Raunchy Comedy to deliver a lecture on the cost of admission. He spoke about the tax of fame, the loss of privacy, and the specific pressures placed on black entertainers to remain palatable to the masses. He highlighted the absurdity of a world where a person can have $50 million and still be at the mercy of a publicist or a network executive. A notable aspect is his commentary on status and access is that he speaks from a position that straddles two worlds. He is both a participant in elite Hollywood spaces and an observer who refuses to fully conform. This duality gives his material a layered quality. He can critique the system while still navigating within it. There's also a strategic ambiguity in how he delivers these ideas. Rock rarely points fingers outright. Instead, he builds scenarios, exaggerates behaviors, and lets the audience connect the dots. This approach offers both protection and power. It allows him to speak on sensitive dynamics without making explicit claims that could carry professional or legal consequences. This era established the never scared persona as a direct challenge to the silence typically required for A-list survival. Rock was signaling that he understood the game perfectly. He knew that the industry thrives on a certain level of compliance, and by speaking so bluntly about the mechanics of fame, he was positioning himself as a man who could not be easily bought or intimidated. He wasn't just a funny man on a stage, he was a mapmaker, charting the dangerous waters of an industry that treats talent as a disposable commodity. But was he simply pushing comedic boundaries, or was he documenting something that insiders recognize but rarely discuss openly? Chris Rock versus Academy's Gatekeepers. In 2016, the entertainment industry faced a seismic internal conflict known as #OscarsSoWhite. This movement was not just a hashtag, it was a public indictment of the gatekeepers who controlled the narrative of excellence in Hollywood. When the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences invited Chris Rock to host during this peak of racial tension, they were essentially asking him to perform a high-wire act. They needed someone with the cultural capital to acknowledge the anger while maintaining the prestige of the evening. Rock did not just walk that line, he dismantled it. The friction intensified when Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith announced a public boycott of the ceremony. This decision created a visible schism within the black elite. On one side stood the Smiths, using their massive star power to challenge the institution from the outside. On the other side was Rock, who chose to engage with the system from within the belly of the beast. The monologue he delivered that night remains one of the most calculated pieces of industry commentary in modern history. Rock's strategy was to point out the absurdity of the boycott itself. He famously joked that Jada boycotting the Oscars was like him boycotting Rihanna's panties. He wasn't invited. While the audience laughed, the subtext was much heavier. Rock was highlighting a specific hierarchy where even the most successful black actors still functioned at the mercy of an invitation. By mocking the boycott, he was suggesting that the power to change Hollywood did not come from staying home, but from occupying the space and refusing to be silent while there. The monologue served as an investigative breakdown of how the industry actually operates. Rock noted that Hollywood is not burning cross racist, but sorority racist. He described a culture where the gatekeepers are polite and welcoming, but ultimately only hire people they like or people who look like them. This was a direct strike at the liberal Hollywood image. He exposed the fact that the Academy was an exclusive club with specific entry requirements that often excluded diverse voices, not out of malice, but out of a systemic preference for the status quo. This moment also mapped the beginning of a deep interpersonal tension. Rock's willingness to mock the Smiths' activism on a global stage was seen by some as a betrayal of solidarity, but for Rock, it seemed to be about intellectual honesty. He was pointing out that the industry's problems were deeper than a single award show and that the selective outrage of celebrities often missed the larger point about professional opportunity. He positioned himself as the only person in the room willing to say that the industry was broken, even while he was the one holding the microphone for its biggest night. By the end of the broadcast, Rock had successfully made everyone in the room uncomfortable, proving that he was not there to be a shield for the Academy, but a witness to its contradictions. Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. Between 2018 and 2023, a fascinating alliance solidified between Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle. This period saw two of the most influential voices in comedy sharing stages across the globe, from London's O2 Arena to the Hollywood Bowl. Their partnership represents more than just a business arrangement between titans. It serves as a masterclass in how elite insiders communicate the realities of the industry through a shared, sophisticated vernacular. While the public often looks for gossip, these two comedians have spent years discussing the structural mechanics of celebrity in a way that requires the audience to read between the lines. Chappelle and Rock both occupy a unique space in the entertainment hierarchy. They are individuals who have achieved the highest levels of success while publicly wrestling with the institutions that provided that success. Chappelle famously walked away from $50 million to preserve his integrity, while Rock has remained a staple of the system while mocking its very foundations. When they appear together, their dialogue often touches on the concept of the contract. This is not just a legal document, but a social and professional binding that dictates what a star can and cannot say. They frequently reference the invisible handlers and the corporate gatekeepers who manage the public's perception of reality. The use of coded language is a central feature of their joint performances. They often speak about the industry as a big game or a simulation. By framing Hollywood in these terms, they allow themselves the freedom to critique powerful figures without triggering the literal legal or professional repercussions that follow direct accusations. For example, when they discuss the cancel culture phenomenon, they are often actually discussing the coordinated efforts of industry PR machines to silence dissenting voices. They raise a recurring question through their routines. Why is it that those with the most to lose are the only ones telling the truth, even if they have to disguise it as a joke? The selective silence of this inner circle is just as telling as their spoken words. There are certain topics and names that remain untouched, even in their most unfiltered moments. This silence highlights the boundaries of the safe zone within the entertainment elite. By observing what Rock and Chappelle choose to avoid, we gain a clearer map of the industry's true power centers. Their alliance suggests that the only way to survive the pressures of the high-level entertainment machine is to find others who have seen the same glitch in the matrix and to create a separate private space for genuine discourse. Ultimately, the Rock-Chappelle era proves that comedy has become the last remaining venue for high-level cultural analysis. They are not merely entertainers, they are analysts who have realized that the truth is often too heavy for a standard news cycle. By delivering their observations through the medium of stand-up, they ensure that the message reaches millions while maintaining a layer of plausible deniability. They have mastered the art of speaking to the few while performing for the many, ensuring that those who are paying attention can see the hidden power structures they are constantly describing. Selective Outrage on Netflix. Chris Rock finally responds. In 2023, Chris Rock used the first-ever live-streamed Netflix special, Selective Outrage, to deliver a calculated response to the events of the previous year. This performance moved beyond the typical structure of a comedy set and functioned as a public deconstruction of the modern attention economy. Rock focused his analysis on a specific social phenomenon where the public, and specifically the Hollywood elite, chooses which transgressions to punish and which to ignore based on current trends. By framing his experience through this lens, he shifted the narrative from a personal grievance to a broader critique of institutional hypocrisy. The breakdown of the Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith dynamic was the most anticipated segment of the special. Rock approached this not by focusing on the physical altercation itself, but by analyzing the psychological state of the people involved. He meticulously detailed the public entanglement interview on Red Table Talk, arguing that the true humiliation for Will Smith occurred long before the Oscars. Rock's delivery in these moments was notably sharper and more aggressive than his previous work. He pointed out the irony of a man who had been publicly emasculated by his own partner, choosing to vent that frustration on a comedian who had nothing to do with their domestic situation. The wording Rock chose throughout the special was precise. He used the phrase selective outrage to describe a culture that would applaud a man for a violent act while simultaneously claiming to champion peace and safety. He contrasted his own upbringing, where he was taught not to fight in front of white people, with the behavior of a superstar who he felt had abandoned that code of conduct on the industry's most prestigious stage. This was a direct strike at the black excellence narrative that Will Smith had spent 30 years cultivating. Rock was essentially arguing that the mask had not just slipped, it had been shattered by the very person wearing it. Comparing Selective Outrage with Rock's earlier specials like Bring the Pain or Bigger and Blacker reveals a significant evolution in his perspective. While his younger self mocked the absurdity of daily life, the 2023 version of Rock targeted the internal rot he perceived in high-level celebrity culture. He stopped acting as a neutral observer and began speaking as someone who had been personally betrayed by the fraternity of Hollywood. The special served as an escalation of his career-long project to expose the gap between public image and private reality. By the end of the set, Rock had reframed the narrative. He was no longer the victim of a slap, he was the survivor of a system that protects its biggest assets even when they behave erratically. He positioned himself as a man who had taken a hit and kept standing, while those who struck him were left to deal with the wreckage of their own carefully managed reputations. Through Selective Outrage, Rock signaled that the era of polite silence was over, and the hidden power dynamics of Hollywood were now subject to his unfiltered scrutiny. Does this shift signal a breaking point? Who gave him access to these rooms in the first place, and what did he have to learn or navigate to stay there? Who opened doors for Chris Rock? The early career trajectory of Chris Rock provides a blueprint for how a performer transitions from local talent to a permanent fixture of the global elite. His rise was not an accident of timing, but a calculated series of maneuvers within the most influential comedy institutions of the late 20th century. To understand the perspective Rock brings to his modern critiques, one must look at the specific doors that were opened for him and the legends who held the keys. The most significant turning point occurred at New York's comic strip in the mid-1980s. Eddie Murphy, who was already the biggest movie star in the world, watched a young Rock perform and immediately recognized a kindred spirit. Murphy did more than offer praise. He provided tangible professional equity by casting Rock in Beverly Hills Cop 2. This mentorship offered Rock a front-row seat to the pinnacle of Hollywood power. He saw how Murphy navigated the industry as a black man who had successfully broken the prototype of the subservient entertainer. This relationship established Rock's proximity to the A-list long before he had a hit special of his own. Following this introduction, Rock's entry into Saturday Night Live in 1990 served as his formal induction into the white-led media establishment. While his time on the show was famously frustrating, it gave him an intimate understanding of the gatekeeping mechanisms within network television. He learned how to survive in environments where his voice was the exception rather than the rule. His subsequent move to In Living Color allowed him to reconnect with a black creative vanguard, further sharpening his ability to speak to two different audiences simultaneously. By the time Rock reached HBO in the mid-1990s, he had been vetted by the most powerful entities in comedy. These platforms provided him with the institutional guard status that few of his peers could claim. He wasn't just a comedian, he was a protege of the system's most successful exports. This high-level access allowed him to observe the internal politics of celebrity circles, from the private parties to the closed-door negotiations. His rise was a masterclass in building social capital. Because he was ushered in by the likes of Murphy and the Wayans family, he entered the elite Hollywood networks not as a guest, but as an heir apparent. This early exposure to the mechanics of fame is what allows him to deconstruct the industry with such surgical precision today. Hollywood feuds and Cold Wars. The history of Hollywood is often written in the language of strategic alliances, but the true power dynamics are revealed through its long-standing Cold Wars. Chris Rock has navigated these tensions with a specific brand of intellectual aggression that distinguishes him from his peers. While many actors and musicians rely on publicists to smooth over friction, Rock uses the stage to sharpen the edges of his professional rivalries. This approach has led to documented tensions with some of the industry's most powerful figures, most notably Will Smith. The friction between Rock and Smith did not originate on an award show stage in 2022. It is a conflict rooted in decades of competing philosophies regarding black stardom. Rock represents a tradition of subversive, uncompromising critique, while Smith spent 30 years as the primary architect of a polished, universal brand. This fundamental difference in how they occupy space in the elite circles of entertainment created a natural fault line. Rock's history of subtle jabs across interviews and previous award show monologues served as a persistent reminder that he refused to buy into the curated perfection of the Smith family narrative. In the high-stakes environment of A-list circles, humor functions as a sophisticated weapon. When Rock makes a joke about a peer's career choices or their personal life, he is often performing a public stress test on their image. These are not random insults. They are calculated strikes at the vulnerabilities of a celebrity's brand. For instance, his 2016 Oscars joke regarding Jada Pinkett Smith was not merely about a boycott. It was a commentary on the perceived entitlement of the Hollywood elite. This type of humor escalates into real conflict because it strips away the protective layers of public relations, forcing the subject to confront an uncomfortable truth in front of a global audience. Mapping these interpersonal dynamics requires looking at the patterns of Rock's targets. He tends to aim his most biting commentary at those who he perceives as being overly concerned with their legacy or image. This creates a recurring Cold War between Rock and the traditional power players who prioritize institutional stability over raw honesty. By using the platform of a stand-up special or a hosting gig to air these grievances, Rock effectively bypasses the usual industry channels of mediation. The result is a landscape where humor becomes the primary tool for shifting power. In an industry where everyone is smiling for the cameras, Rock's willingness to deliver a public hit makes him a dangerous variable in any room. These feuds are rarely about a single event. They are ongoing battles for cultural authority, where the winner is the one who can control the narrative of the conflict. For Rock, the goal has always been to prove that no one, regardless of their status or their box office records, is exempt from the scrutiny of a well-timed observation. Marriages, affairs, and public scandals in elite circles. In the upper echelons of Hollywood, a personal life is rarely a private matter. Instead, it functions as a critical component of a star's market value. For decades, the industry has operated on a system where a stable, aspirational marriage serves as the ultimate collateral for a clean brand. Chris Rock has spent a significant portion of his later career deconstructing this specific facade, focusing on how elite couples manage their public narratives to maintain their grip on power. The most prominent example of this dynamic is the evolution of Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith's public relationship, which transitioned from a model of black excellence to a case study in public vulnerability. The introduction of the entanglement discourse via Red Table Talk marked a fundamental shift in how the industry handles scandal. Rather than hiding from the rumors of an affair, the Smiths chose to own the narrative by broadcasting their domestic crisis to millions. While this was framed as a move toward radical honesty, Rock's analysis suggests a more cynical interpretation. He pointed out that by turning a private betrayal into a piece of content, the couple was attempting to retain control over an image that was already beginning to fracture. In elite circles, the greatest threat is not a scandal itself, but the loss of authority over how that scandal is perceived. Rock's commentary on these events highlights the immense pressure placed on public figures to perform perfection. He has often noted that in Hollywood, your reputation is your currency, and a public admission of an affair or a failing marriage can lead to a significant devaluation of your professional stock. When the entanglement interview went viral, it stripped away the invincibility of the Smith brand, exposing a level of human messiness that the industry typically works to sanitize. Rock argued that this public humiliation was the true catalyst for the tension that eventually exploded on the Oscars stage. The price of image in these circles is a constant state of performance. Rock has used his platform to observe that many of the most celebrated Hollywood unions are actually strategic partnerships designed to protect mutual interests. By sticking to documented events and the couple's own public statements, Rock avoids the realm of gossip and instead performs a sociological study of power. He shows how the intersection of personal life and professional reputation creates a high-stakes environment where the truth is often the first thing sacrificed to save the brand. Comedy is code. What Chris Rock says versus what he implies. To understand Chris Rock's impact on the entertainment industry, one must analyze the technical architecture of his writing. Rock does not simply tell jokes, he constructs layered narratives that function as a form of social and industrial code. While a casual listener might hear a punchline about a celebrity or a relationship, those within the industry recognize a sophisticated commentary on the nature of power, control, and image management. This method of comedy as code allows Rock to deliver uncomfortable truths about the Hollywood machine while maintaining the necessary distance to survive within it. A signature element of Rock's coding is his use of the observation-validation subversion loop. He begins by stating a widely accepted public fact, such as the immense success of a particular star. He then validates the audience's perception of that success before subverting it by highlighting the hidden costs or the lack of true autonomy behind the fame. When Rock speaks about the man or the boss, he is frequently using a double entendre. In a political context, it refers to the government, but in a professional context, it refers to the studio executives and talent agents who dictate the terms of a performer's existence. By using these broad terms, he can critique the very people sitting in the front row of his shows without naming them directly. This technique is a sharp contrast to the styles of his peers. While a comedian like Cat Williams might use a more direct and conspiratorial tone to call out industry weirdness, Rock remains clinical and analytical. He relies on logic rather than emotion to expose the absurdity of elite circles. For example, his recurring themes regarding the price of admission suggest that every level of success in Hollywood comes with a specific requirement of silence or compliance. He implies that the more famous a person becomes, the less they are permitted to be their authentic selves, as their image becomes a multi-million-dollar asset that must be protected at all costs. By structuring his routines this way, Rock creates a tiered experience for his audience. The general public enjoys the humor and the observational wit, but the industry insiders hear a roadmap of the pitfalls and power plays that define their daily lives. He identifies the patterns of how reputations are built and destroyed, framing the industry not as a creative meritocracy, but as a high-stakes game of narrative control. Through this coded language, Rock ensures that his most potent critiques are hidden in plain sight, accessible only to those who understand the true language of the Hollywood power structure. The industry's open secret: why no one speaks directly. Chris Rock's career reveals a fundamental truth about the entertainment industry. Humor is the only legal tender for the truth in a town built on illusions. Throughout this investigation, it becomes clear that the silence maintained by Hollywood's elite is not a product of contentment, but a strategic necessity for survival. To speak directly about the power structures, the predatory contracts, or the manufactured nature of celebrity brands is to risk immediate professional exile. Rock has managed to navigate this minefield by wrapping his most lethal observations in the protective packaging of a punchline. The industry operates on a system of mutual protection, where the reputations of the powerful are shielded by non-disclosure agreements, multi-million-dollar public relations machines, and the threat of blacklisting. When a public figure like Rock breaches these unspoken rules, the reaction is often swift and visceral. The 2022 Oscars incident served as a rare moment where the structural tension became physically visible on a global stage. It raised a haunting question about the safety of those with less cultural capital. If the most famous comedian in the world can be struck on live television for a joke, the message to every other performer is clear. Certain boundaries are not to be crossed. Why does no one speak directly? The answer lies in the high cost of the truth. In a landscape defined by legal risks and the constant fear of reputation damage, direct accusations are often met with litigation rather than dialogue. By using comedy as a delivery system, Rock and his peers like Dave Chappelle ensure their messages reach a mass audience while maintaining a layer of plausible deniability. They have realized that in a society governed by image, a well-timed joke can be more damaging to a power structure than a formal indictment. We are left to wonder what is truly being protected and by whom, as the industry continues to value the stability of the facade over the reality of the human experience. This is not just about Chris Rock. It is about the system itself, what gets said, what stays hidden, and why the truth often sounds safer when it is delivered as a joke. And if that is the case, how much of it have we been laughing at without really hearing it? If you found this breakdown thought-provoking, like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines.